Good morning, everybody. Okay, I think I have been asked to start. Super excited to be part of Indiaspora AI Summit. And most important that we are having such amazing experts on the panel. So today's panel is Fortune 500 companies and AI. I'll give a little bit boring background about me, and then we'll start with the experts. I'm the founder and CEO of Advaita Capital. We are a growth venture fund investing in deep tech. We write checks from 10 to 100 million plus. We hold considerable position in companies like Neuralink, Cohere. Last year, we wrote a $60 million check in Cohere, which is a small, sparse data model company. Recently, they're getting backed by Canadian pension fund, PSP. So excited to be part of the panel. Okay, I will not give the introduction, but I will start with Muddu, but all of you, if you can give a little bit background about yourself, about your company, and the amazing work that you're doing on AI, especially you, because you got the recognition as a leader in your company and IDC report for generative AI.
Thank you, Gayatri. I think you and Emma did a fantastic job today morning, early morning, getting on a Friday. All these people to come to listen to you guys is awesome. So good job. Give a round of applause to Gayatri and Emma, guys. And I would love to take your money, but you invested with my enemy, Cohere. So no money from you. We will not work with you. With that said, my name is Muddu Sudhakar. I represent Aisera. We have two of our colleagues also here. My VP of AI, Utkarsh, is here. Jyoti is here. She runs all our partnerships. Aisera, we started Conversation AI, Gen AI, almost 6 years back. I left ServiceNow to start. So it's been a great journey. So we kind of called it like 6 years back when I go to VCs in 2018, 2019. Nobody will even look at me. They're like, what is AI? What is Conversation AI? I love cybersecurity. I love cloud. So they were stuck in cybersecurity world that no VC actually really wanted to even talk to us at the time. After ChatGPT, obviously the whole life has changed, right? So everybody, for all of us, so my heroes are definitely Sam Altman and OpenAI. They made AI sexy, right? They made AI more relevant. Even earlier, I think Ramesh was talking about Modi. Modi is talking about AI only because of OpenAI. Like before that, if any AI, we were like, it's killing jobs, AI is bad for society. Forget about giving back to the community, right? So today, nobody talks about AI as being every leader wants to embrace AI. It's so much positivity in last 12 months. We all need to go back and look at what ChatGPT has changed for us as an OpenAI. And I particularly acknowledge that because they're my heroes. I tell all my employees and my partners that really driving our business for the last 12 months.
Great. Razat, if you want to talk about Planview and your outlook, on AI,
Sure, Gayatri. Razat Gaurav, I'm the CEO at Planview. We're one of the market leaders in what's called portfolio and work management solutions. We're about a $500 million B2B SaaS company.
Testing? Yeah, this one works. All right, so we'll go ahead and get started. We actually have a short panel today. We'll try to cram.
it's like we are hearing.
Okay. We just have to speak louder, maybe. Yeah. I've been a student of AI for the last 25 years and building products leveraging AI. And it was interesting to hear the journey from Ramesh. His journey and my journey intersected at i2 because i2 acquired Aspect back in the day. But obviously, in the last 2 years, we've seen a huge surge in both the interest level and the application of generative AI. And what I think was the most successful demo in human history with ChatGPT, right?
Making big bets.
And we at Planview clearly are applying both classic AI and generative AI to the problem domain of how do you bring efficiencies, productivity, and velocity to project and product initiatives in large organizations. So that's the problem domain we're in, and happy to have the discussion further on that.
That's amazing. So I have Anush here. My name of my firm is Advaita Capital, and everybody asks me what's the meaning of that. Again, Sanskrit word. You have an amazing name for your company. If you can start with that and talk a little bit about your experience in AI.
Absolutely. Anush Mohandass, one of the founders and CEO of Asato, Asato.ai. Perhaps in this audience, we'll say it's Asato. Asato comes from the Sanskrit word Asato ma sadgamaya, from darkness to light, from untruth to truth. And that really is the mission of Asato. It's about giving CIOs the path to knowledge and truth. In the panel before, Anurag and Amit talked about going from information to knowledge to wisdom. We are making that happen.
That's amazing. So I want to start with the very first thing. As a venture capitalist, we face this issue. It's like when we are looking at, I mean, before this emergence of AI, the cost of barrier to entry was very, very low. You know, anybody can start a startup with $1,000 also. Right now, when we speak with these amazing experts or PhDs and others, they need minimum $5 million to get hundreds and hundreds of H100s in order to start. So the cost of barrier to entry has changed a lot. I would love to start with you, Muddu, if you want to talk a little bit about it and the challenges that you're facing alongside the use cases. I know everybody's racing to AGI, but if you can start a little bit.
You have a very good question. Can you guys hear me? How is it now? Good? Okay. So what she asked about is a very good question, which is about the cost of compute for any company today. The number one expense is still people, and the second expense is compute. And in compute, it has both Kubernetes containers and the GPUs. So if you want to start a company in Series A, seed stage, in whatever use case, if you don't have a capital, you're not going to make it. The third one is data, right? You don't have the data. The people with the data is going to win the game. Now, you can't take customers' data to sell. I can take customer A data, train it, and sell it to B. That's a lot of people are doing that. And there's a lot of, including OpenAI right now is in a, I think there's a New York Times or somebody sued them or Wall Street. So this is going to be a big battleground. Where is your data coming from? What is the responsible AI? Data belongs to the customers. So even if you give the compute, the problem is if you're funding any startups, first thing you look at is how are they creating the data? Where is it coming from? Otherwise, all your money will be going to the lawyers, to Wilson and Cini to fight your legal battles, right? So that from that side. So irrespective of the use case, first focus on where the data coming from, how do you want to do it? And compute is a problem. Now, architecturally, there's a very good innovations happening. I know how many of you guys know about inference architectures, reasoning architectures, agentic architectures. The idea is not to have for every request, go to foundation model. Not every request should go to NVIDIA GPU. You know what will happen if every request, every time you type a query in ChatGPT or any model, like you take your company Cohere, if every time they're there, Cohere goes to a foundation model always. Or every time it goes to NVIDIA, you know what will happen to planet Earth? Like earlier, Ramesh was talking about giving back to Earth. We are screwing up Earth, guys. Earth will become like solar eclipse will be Earth eclipse. We are done. Forget about giving to community. So like every NVIDIA, what Jensen wants is everybody wants to have an NVIDIA GPU. At Aisera, we are betting against NVIDIA. I'm the only one who's saying that NVIDIA, I mean, maybe I'm the contrary investment. So my idea is not every request should go there. So think about an architecture where every request training should not hit the foundation model. It should go to the task models, maybe some other LLMs. So this is what Satya is also doing at Microsoft. There's one person who is thinking this very cleverly is Microsoft. Not the OpenAI guys, not Llama 3, not Databricks, because all these guys are saying, put everything in foundation model, take my data, whether it's 128 billion parameters, and use NVIDIA GPU for this. And put NVIDIA GPU in every local machine, everything. That's what Jensen wants. If that happened, what happened? The compute infrastructure will be so expensive. As I said, each GPU costs $100,000 versus more expense, and the power. That will become like sun. So that's not going to scale. So I'm betting against that. So if anybody wants to talk about that, come and talk to me or buy Aisera. You'll learn from that.
Perhaps I'll bring a counterpoint. I know we're talking about AI, perhaps at the top of the stack on the application layer. My background, perhaps a few where I started my career in hardware, and most of my startups have been on the hardware space. Spent the last 4 years in Intel building computational AI for different services, like autonomous mobile robots, for healthcare, for different aspects. When we started Asato, which is more on the software side, I was actually blown away by how little capital we need compared to what you need when what is needed to do a hardware startup. You need to pay for wafer cost, you need to pay for development. You're running into hundreds of millions of dollars to tape out a chip, or billions to be successful, to be at scale. Compare that on the software side, it's much, much cheaper. And in fact, it's getting cheaper. You don't need 100 people. You probably need 10 super engineers to do what you need to do. And that's possible because of what GenAI has done for us. That's possible because of what GitHub Copilot is doing for us. It's enabling people to do amazing things with a fraction of a cost. Yes, we need to worry about computational power. Yes, we need to worry about what we're doing for the planet in terms of making sure the architecture is right, but we'll figure that in place. But compared to where we were 10 years ago to where it is now, I would argue for what we're trying to do, the capital requirements is actually coming down.
That's great.
Yeah, I would tend to agree on that. I sit, my company sits on the application side. So we're not trying to create the next foundation model, right? We're taking multiple LLMs and doing the prompt engineering with data that is unique to what our platform captures, and then creating use cases that provides intelligence, decision support, automation, and all kinds of predictions and prescriptions for our large Fortune 1000, Fortune 5000 companies, right? And what I'll say is, compared to where we were, even like 2 years ago to versus now, the unit costs are actually declining, right? And in some ways, that trend is going to continue. We've of course, our initial MVP product for our Copilot was built on ChatGPT using Azure APIs, even though we're very wedded to AWS as our cloud infrastructure. More lately, we've been doing more work through AWS and Bedrock with Anthropic's cloud, and we're seeing fantastic results. There's, by the way, about a 60% differential in unit cost savings to switch to cloud. So I think, and we all know that ChatGPT 4 Turbo is about to come out. They haven't announced exactly the timing of that, as far as I know, but that's going to have a substantially lower unit cost pricing as well. So I think on the applied side, where we sit in enterprise software, what doesn't keep me up at night so much is the cost. And yes, there's compute for certain use cases, but that's where, AWS has done an amazingly good job, not only in the last 2 years, but even in the previous years with Lambda technologies. You can have auto scaling and things like that, right? Where I see a lot more work being required in large organizations, right? Fortune 500 companies, which is the topic of this panel, is really first in having an approach to prioritizing which use cases really have business impact. It's not AI for the sake of AI. It's really AI as an enabler to get productivity, efficiency, and velocity improvements, right? And so that's the first part, and everyone is spawning off all kinds of pilots. And there are many good examples of classic AI being deployed in the enterprise. That's happened in the last several decades, right? I built supply chain planning and execution systems for many years in demand planning and inventory planning and supply planning, transportation, planning that leveraged linear programs and mixed integer programs and machine learning techniques for many, many years. And those are in production environment for many years at organizations like PepsiCo and Procter & Gamble and Walmart and organizations like that. Similarly, in financial services companies have been using machine learning techniques and neural networks to help facilitate trading and do risk analysis, et cetera, for years, right? Decades. When it comes to generative AI, I think everyone is still in pilot mode. There are very few examples of enterprise-wide scaled examples that are in production. Everyone is in experimentation mode and piloting mode, but where a lot of the work that is required is more on the data side. It's what Muddu was saying, right? And it's not so much about just making sure you have a data lake, because it's just dumping data, and I'll call it dumb data in a data lake, doesn't make your ability to feed these sophisticated AI models more efficient. You really have to do the heavy lifting in working on the semantic layer, creating, an ontology, feeding into knowledge graphs that then feed into these models. that can be 3, 4, 5 times more efficient based on the results we're seeing. And that's where I think a lot of work has to be done in organizations, in addition to figuring out all the concerns Fortune 500 companies have around data privacy and protection and things like that.
Let me add to what Razat is saying. So a few things that I see differently on that side is, as I said, data is important. The big trend in enterprises is they don't even want to send the data anymore to outside. Maybe Planview, you guys are doing it, but enterprise, when you talk about it, the banks, the insurance companies,
Data privacy.
the data privacy, and not only the new act of European Act and the US presidential order. So there's a huge trend, data will not leak. That's what even Ali from Databricks is saying. So Databricks is competing with Snowflake, saying that leave your data there, I'm going to bring Databricks there. So on top of the data, whether you create knowledge graph or whether you do semantic graph, search, ontologies, so they became a domain-specific LLMs. So I think what he's talking about is still at a low level. When customers come and talk to me, they're saying, give me a domain-specific LLM, whether in whichever industry that is, talent management, or is it in IT, finance, insurance, wealth management. It is for, let's say, property and casualty. I was with Capgemini and Progress Insurance in Boston 2 days back. That's all they want. Their goal is 98% of all auto claims by end of this year will not see a human. This is a Progressive Insurance CEO is put in a claim, saying that, so if you have a car accident, something, you take a picture, multimodal, you give a video, give it to them. 98% of their claims for auto will not touch a human being. They employ thousands of people. Obviously, those thousands of people will be gone, right? So they want to automate that. That's what customers want. So what people want is a domain-specific LLM. They will never send their data to Azure AI, Bedrock, forget about Bedrock, no way, right? So people who are doing all these things, Bedrock and all these things are all still startups funded by below 1,000 employee companies, or revenue from 5 to 100 million. Once you go to a billion revenue companies, they don't want to share the data with you. They're done. Given whatever the fiasco happened with OpenAI during Thanksgiving turkey time, they don't have any trust on any Silicon Valley companies, guys. You guys as a board members, the first thing you should think about is whatever that happened cannot happen anymore, right? That's a fiasco. That's what gives a bad name to Silicon Valley, right? The OpenAI thing. So with that, the number one problem I get asked is how I don't trust you. Doesn't matter who you have investment from Menlo Ventures, Norwest, Goldman, doesn't matter, right? They're telling me openly that we don't trust any of the startups. Particularly if you are invested from somebody like a private equity, they don't trust them because private equity is a vulture capitalist, right? Why would they trust a private equity guys, right? So I'm going to be very black and white, right? So people don't trust the investors on the boards today, particularly with the data. So that's the main thing that we as a people have to owe responsibility to the society to make sure people do that. Now, when it comes to this, in terms of data and cost, we talked about the use case he talked about is important. Everybody has to decide what use case to go after. There's no one size fits all. The one common use cases are people want to try ChatGPT for enterprise. That's number one. Search is second. The third use case is software development, guys. Everybody want to replace developers. So Stanford Computer Science Department, I would expect 10 years from now, there won't be any software computer science department here. That's my bet. So let's ask MR if he's in the room. We should have a meeting here exactly 2034. I want to see how many computer science people will be here. Nobody wants to write Java code. The first lines of the code or JavaScript, Python are coming from algorithms. And they're actually much more secure, right? It won't have a bad day on a Friday day because we do a lot of profiling of developers in the code. When do you write bad code? When do you insert code problems, etc. So if I look at it, most is human driven. He or she has a problem at home, they dump all the bad bugs in the code. I don't have that problem with AI. It doesn't have a bad problem. It doesn't take breaks. It doesn't have family issues, right? So the level of quality of the code that will come out from GitHub and GitLab through AI software engineering and code development, and that's going all the way to database. I was in Bangalore this year, January, December. There are 1,000 companies laid off all DBAs. If you're doing text to SQL commands, you should be thinking twice. You shouldn't be generating a SQL queries, joins, and all of those. So I'm talking about that level. Same thing for informatics. If you're doing an ETL, no wonder Informatica wants to sell it to our friends at Salesforce. Nobody will do ETL. Like whether it's spreadsheet or anywhere, it's all done by algorithms now, right? So those are the mundane tasks people are trying to repeat.
Yeah, I think.
Enough for you?
Yes, yes. I mean, this is the question that we are asking. We have to do a lot of lateral thinking. And I love the discussion that is going on over here. And one of the thing I think the common aspect over here, we are talking about the use cases that are built on the data. There's the sparse model focus, data privacy focus, and you're talking about the use cases with the existing Anthropic ChatGPT model. One of the thing I want to ask everybody. Yeah, and Aisera models. So one of the thing I wanted to ask is that down the road, we believe, and I think you can, I would love your emphasis on that, that companies will run out of data sets. And then there's this focus towards synthetic data and how to train data models. And most of these data models are very language specific. You're training this data based on the context-based languages, and that's why chat-based context is important. And that's why all the call centers and others are, if they are not using AI, they should be using. So most of these context-based language models are taken from, human interactions, human beings' lives. We are also very polite. We don't speak the truth. So the truth-seeking AI, like Elon Musk is going for XAI, I would love to know how you guys are building your company, making sure that some of the impediments that are coming with language models or not, when you're building your own models, how are you, tackling that? I would start with you, if you want.
Yeah, and models doesn't always necessarily mean just language models, right? I'll give you an example. A venture called OmniBridge that I ran at Intel, and what it tries to do is it's targeted towards the deaf and dumb community where they are speaking ASL. It's looking at what you're doing and converting that into English or any other language. The biggest problem for OmniBridge in terms of scale was getting enough data sets, and data sets not in terms of language, but data sets in terms of how you sign. And turns out there's actually accent in how you sign. So if you go get video streams from people in New England versus people in California, the output that you're going to get is going to be very different. And how did OmniBridge tackle it? Started 4 years ago. How did OmniBridge tackle when it started 4 years ago? It started out with going to universities and getting that data. Now, and how is it going forward? Is using that synthetic data to generate that. So as to your point, as we go through this, what's going to happen? There is going to be bias in the system. There is going to be something that we have. We don't need to get specifics on how we tackle each of them. What we need to know is what are our pillars? What is the framework for you to address it? And the way we do it is we have 4 pillars. So one pillar is around governance. Governance is not just internal governance. Yes, you're going to have internal governance. Governance is internal and external governance. That's a key piece. Do we have the right experts in our team? Are we bringing in the right experts from the external force? The second pillar is around research and collaboration. Fully know that whatever we're doing, the stack is changing as we speak. Forget about being an expert in one single layer of the stack. The stack itself is changing. So how are you ensuring that you're tapping into the right ecosystem? So research and collaboration is a big pillar. The third pillar is around product and services. Whatever product that you're doing, are you just talking in like slides and vision and mission statements? Are you actually operationalizing that in the way you develop the products? That's a key piece. The fourth piece, it gets a bad rep, is around inclusion. As you're doing this, as bias gets into the system, how are you even measuring inclusion? How are you even doing that? You can do good and bad ways. So those are the 4 pillars. You can get specific on each of those pillars and how you're addressing it, but it's important to have the framework and have that discussion with your team. Because it's not only going to be important for your own team. If you talk to any of the Fortune 500 companies, they're going to understand, do you have a systematic way in which you're tackling this, or you're just doing a whack-a-mole? That's going to be important for your credibility, going to be important for how you scale. To what Razat talked about, right? Most of the things that's happening right now is in the pilot and proof of value stages. When you deploy it at scale, when you deploy it at production, if you don't have answers to these, it's not going to go too far.
Razat, if you want to answer that. I love the different opinions in the panel, so it's getting very exciting.
Yeah, look, going back to my friend Muddu's point, right? I mean, 100% of Fortune 500 companies have their data in the cloud. 100%, because they're all leveraging some cloud application or the other. right? Whether it's from AWS or Azure or GCP or IBM or Oracle, right? They're all leveraging cloud. And so I just want to make sure, and that's not something that is going to change because there's inherent, I mean, all of us who've been building products over the years, we know the inherent issues with on-prem custom built software, right? Now, having said that, there's a lot of, concern around data privacy for the right reasons. There's a lot of thought that has to be put into security issues, et cetera. But what I find in our customer base, and these are big banks, some of the biggest banks in the world, some of the biggest manufacturers and retailers in the world, they're all increasing their adoption of cloud, not decreasing it. That's the first point. The second point in terms of your question around biases and things, right? This is where the underlying data that gets used to train these models and the integrity, the fidelity, the governance around that data is so key, right? And I think we're all in early stages in really learning our way through what is required to provide that integrity and that inclusiveness in the data sets. Now, in some use cases, it's not as big of an issue, because your objective function is more oriented around specific business goals and metrics. In some other use cases, it can have a huge impact because there's all kinds of inherent biases, right? So we're all learning our way through it. And that's where I think in most use cases, it's not like a plug and play approach, right? You've got to take the time to tune these models, do the testing, understand what the outcomes are, what the results that are coming out, and go through that learning cycle before you can really roll out at enterprise scale.
As you can see, I'm restless to get my thoughts out. I'm leaning forward. So there's a lot to talk here. I'll do my justice here. So first is, I think there are ways to think about the model. Foundation model is the lowest level. Then you have LLMs. Then you have a task model. So first discuss in your AI stack what you guys trying to do. Then the data thing that Gayatri talked about. The data itself, there will be some data will be on the cloud, some will be on-prem. 100% data is not on the cloud. Only 30% of the enterprise data is on the cloud. 70% still on-prem. So you have to deal with that, right? And when you say cloud, it could be in Box, Dropbox, ServiceNow, Salesforce, right? It may not be in AWS cloud, right? It could be other clouds. When you are in Salesforce, it's not in AWS and Google. It's sitting in AWS cloud. There's some data, most of it is sitting in Salesforce, right? Salesforce application will be Salesforce Oracle database sitting in Salesforce data centers, right? So same thing with ServiceNow. None of the ServiceNow customer data is in any cloud. It's in ServiceNow cloud. What is ServiceNow cloud? Their data center. That's it. So the question will be is now you as a customer, let's say you go into a bank, go to Goldman Sachs. Do you think Goldman Sachs will give you their data and so take it and dump it into OpenAI? Let's say, I see Rohini there, supply chain. Go to BNSF, railroad company, Warren Buffett. It can be any more supply chain than the BNSF. They're my customer. What are they going to do? They're going to give their BNSF train data, all the thing to put it into OpenAI or any other Azure AI? No way. They're shit scared of that BNSF train data. They're a regulated company. They're a 200-year-old company. What about the train data they have? Where the data is coming from, goods, trains, logistics companies. So my point is, for every company, there's some data, maybe some application data will be sitting in cloud, some will be on-prem. Question is, how do you get that data to train yourself if you bring the stack? Now, if I train that one customer data, can I give to customer B? No, you cannot. That's a responsible AI framework. There's a laws right now. If you do it, you will be sued. The customer will sue you. So people are doing it production. I think there are some pilots going on. Look, I've been doing this thing now for 6 years. We started coming with AI in 2018. I have 250 plus customers. They're all in production. The smallest companies will be like somebody like Dave.com, fintech company, public company. I have 10 million users. Entire banking transactions go through us, checking transfers to everything else. I have S&P Global. I have Amgen as my customer, pharmaceutical company, Gilead. If you actually go to Gilead.com, you will see Aisera bot there. If any of the people are asking questions about, I'm taking experimental drugs, I'm vomiting sensation, I have allergic reaction, we are the first call and the last call. But the data is on their medical database. That data cannot go to ChatGPT, it cannot go to Azure AI. It for sure won't go to Cohere, the Canadian company. He can't even cross US borders, Gayatri. First of all, why are you investing in Canadian companies? What's wrong with you? Huh? Guys, you should give her some advice, huh? Yes. MR should move this even
I'm-
to Canada.
I'm investing in all the companies.
Good.
Yes, yes,
Okay,
yes.
with her.
But one of the thing and we have like 5 minutes to go, but
Go for it.
I was like, we can go on and on because I'm loving this panel and yes. I want to talk the very last thing to all of you. It's like, I would love to know your opinion because I feel like we are literally living in the time of 60s and 70s. As a venture capitalist, we are super excited because it's like we are rebuilding the infrastructure of technology. And now on top of it, everything is getting built, which you guys are doing. So would love to know, as everybody is very scared of AGI, are you scared of AGI? Because I want a little bit of a fun, more fun answer. So are you scared of AGI and how fast do you think we will reach AGI? I think I'll start with you and then I'll end up with most controversial.
No, not scared of AGI, looking forward to it. I know somebody was asking, what's the coolest technology you want to be part of? I'm looking forward to the Star Wars, Star Trek. I'm personally not scared of AGI. On a more serious note, I am interested. I do have 2 teenage boys. I am interested in what this means for them. If you go back to the 60s and 70s versus now, what was valued in 60s and 70s? Knowledge was valued, right? You had encyclopedias. If you could recite what was fact, you were considered good to be employed. You could, if you could do math fast, that was considered good. Fast forward, knowledge has essentially become zero thanks to Google and whatnot. What is valuable is different. What LLMs are doing is it's reasoning by analogy. All it does is it picks a bunch of different analogies and it's reasoning by analogy. And I think that cost of knowledge is going down to nothing. So as we look forward to the next generation, what are they going to be valued at? They're going to be valued at wisdom. They're going to be valued at first principle thinking. I guarantee you my 17-year-old son does not even understand that concept, let alone appreciate that, right? So what does it mean for them? That's the piece I'm interested in understanding.
Yeah, I'm an optimist when it comes to the potential of AGI being a force for good. And again, the pursuit of AGI didn't just start with the demo that came about 2.5 years ago, right? Just to be clear, the pursuit of AGI has been a 5,000-year pursuit since the days of Aryabhatta, right? In replicating human intelligence and that pursuit for productivity and efficiency has been a human journey and will continue. So having said that, we are going to need to work through known unknowns and unknown unknowns, right? And there's tons of them. And so there'll have to be guardrails, but I'm an optimist when it comes to us being able to figure out what guardrails we need, how we bring the trust into these models and really leverage it for solving some of the most profound problems the world has, both the business world and the social world.
All right. My answer to that is, I don't know about AGI, I'll get to that. I think if you talk about 60s and 70s, I was not born in 60s. So I can tell you, I was in 1994 in Stanford. One of my professors I know, Asha is here. Rajiv Motwani, Professor Motwani was one of my professors. And Professor John Hennessy, who became Stanford. I was employed by John Hennessy at SGI in 95. David Patterson is my thesis advisor. And Yudia Pearl. All 3 are Turing Award winners, guys. They were my thesis advisors. So if you look back to 1994, I remember right here, 1994. Take internet revolution, multiply by 1,000 times. That's what is going on right now. It's time to make money. Forget about AGI, forget about scare, optimism. Just should focus on making money. And I know Ramesh was talking about giving back. There's no giving back if you don't make money. I mean, when I retire, I'll give back money. Tell Ramesh, he's talking about this because he made billions of dollars. I didn't make billions of dollars. I want to make money. This is like gold rush. Nobody give money to any charity. First, make money for yourself, the employer and your employees. So wrong to ask those questions. So I think the focus on money, guys, look, I was at the Google event, like there are 30,000 people. Every session is about AI. Google is getting their ass kicked by some small companies, right? Have you ever seen that? Google is now offering Gemini on-prem. Google is a cloud company. They're trying to say they'll bring the AI stack to on-prem into their data. I mean, you imagine how much pressure people are going through. So I think focus is it's a great time to make money. Everybody's making money. If you don't make money, we are losers. Amma, don't invite people who don't make money. Thank you.
So I think he gave the final verdict because anyway, Indians are like almost 1% of the people who are making money among the immigrants. That's why we are no longer considered minority, but I think we will be there soon. Yeah.